What's going on, chooms? JonJonTheWise here, and I got another Cyberpunk video for you guys. Today I'm going to be talking about something I've been working on tirelessly in secret on my own, a martial arts supplement for Cyberpunk Red. That's right, I'm overhauling the martial arts in Cyberpunk Red, something that I've been wanting to use at my table, something to address some concerns I've had, and things that I just basically wanted to change, and I feel like something like that might be interested in the community. But before we get into my martial arts supplement, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a background on why martial arts are so important to me. Ever since the movie Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Power Rangers, ninjas, samurai, all that stuff growing up in the 90s that I enjoyed has always stuck with me. Martial arts has always been something that I've been interested in, and even today I'm a fan of MMA, the UFC, and just martial arts in general. And that's why I really was excited to see martial arts in Cyberpunk 2020, and the way it was implemented was really fun too. But don't get me wrong, chooms, it was absolutely overpowered. Anybody that played Cyberpunk 2020 knows this. You check out the Pacific Rim sourcebook and you got all kinds of cool martial arts there, all the things that they can do. You put it together with the core rule book, and with some cyber limbs you're going to be doing a crazy amount of damage. So of course I was excited to see it in Cyberpunk Red, and I was curious to see what they would do in Cyberpunk Red. But once we got closer to it, I realized that there's just so many things in martial arts that were not in there. And of course, that's understandable, chooms. Listen, you can't add everything to the core rulebook, all right? And maybe martial arts wasn't at the top of the docket, but you know, you can't blame them. It's 400 plus pages of all kinds of stuff. There are still some concepts that I keep from the core rulebook, and I even have a section in my supplement letting you know what's in and what's out, just so you can understand how to use my homebrew. But when I was reading the Cyberpunk Red core rulebook, I really felt like there was a lot of missed opportunities. Martial arts has changed so much over the last 20 to 30 years, and I felt like that wasn't really expressed in the core rulebook for whatever reason. For example, the advent of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not even mentioned there, MMA is not mentioned there, and even the common martial arts, or the traditional ones of karate and taekwondo, they have completely changed over the years, kept some of their traditional concepts, but the way that they are used in competition to find out who is the best of the best has completely changed over the last 20 to 30 years. So I was just theory crafting and realized, you know what, in the dark future, people are going to be using martial arts, especially in a time where you have to defend yourself, and martial arts has always been a discipline about defending yourself more than it is for attacking people. And that is the concept that will go throughout into the dark future. I feel like people in 2045, 2020 and beyond will be wanting to defend themselves. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. I want to talk about this thing. Let's talk about the supplement as much as we can. So first of all, let's talk about the elevator pitch. This is the idea that I would give somebody if they wanted to know what this supplement was about. It's a Cyberpunk Red supplement for martial arts. It's got new mechanics, more features for each martial art, more martial arts. I got 12 so far. Descriptions for each martial art. That way you don't have to exactly know what the martial art is about. It gives you a general description and you can choose from there. There are narrative options for Lifepath and also a hustle chart, because martial arts is a way of life. Going into martial arts, it's something that you take on with you. It's a discipline you're working out, and that needs to be determined in your character's life path as well. It has to be reflected in there, as I should say. And the hustle chart I added in because, you know, sometimes using your martial arts prowess can come in handy, and I wanted to give people an extra way to do hustles with their martial arts acumen. And of course, I think it's very important to mention that this supplement is a fan-made book that is meant to be used with the Cyberpunk Red Core Rulebook by R. Talsorian Games. This book is in no way affiliated with R. Talsorian Games and is intended to be in compliance with their official homebrew policy. This book should be free and should never have a cost associated with obtaining it. If any such cost exists, please tattletale the details of your purchase to R. Talsorian Games and to me, because that's messed up. I put this out for free. If anybody's charging you for it, tell them to kick rocks. So I'm sure you're wondering, how do we use this? All right, so to use this book, I put some steps here so you guys could understand. It's 4 easy steps, all right? You create a character, you invest in the martial arts skill, all right? You put points in martial arts. That's all you got to do. Once you do that, choose the martial art of your choice from the martial arts section. And please read the descriptions if you don't know what they're about. But the idea is you pick 1 or 2 martial arts depending how many points you put into your skill. We'll get into that later. But you choose your martial art of choice. Then I want you to read the concepts and martial arts actions section. The concepts will tell you what's going on with the mechanics, and the martial arts actions will be the mechanics themselves. And of course, lastly, read about the techniques of your chosen martial art so you can understand the unique interactions granted to you in combat. Each martial art will have their own set of abilities and things that you can do, so it's great to familiarize yourself with the concepts that are in there. All right, for those of you that are curious, let's go into the concept section and let's talk about what's in and what's out. All right, if you made it this far, then I've piqued your curiosity. Let me tell you what I've done. Page 176 of the core rulebook, I haven't changed anything. I list all the pages here. Page 177, you add a sentence to the grab section that reads, alternatively, you may choose to oppose your opponent's grab action with your martial arts skill as a requirement for executing special techniques granted by your martial art. Currently, you have to use your brawling skill anytime you're grappling with somebody in Cyberpunk Red, and I wanted to add the ability to use your martial arts skill, but specifically for using some of the martial arts techniques that are within this book. In page 177, we also add a sentence in throw that reads, if you are in control of a martial arts grapple, you may optionally choose to throw your opponent 4 meters away. If thrown, you and your opponent are no longer considered to be grappled. I think it would be a really cool thing if you can throw your opponent into a direction. I don't think that there is any current rules to tell you exactly how far they go, but 4 meters is 2 squares. I think that's decent enough. All right, page 178, martial arts damage remains the same and has an added rule that cyberware enhances damage dealt. We'll get into how it does, but damage is exactly the same. It's determined by your body, 3d6, 4d6, whatever it is, halves armor, all that is the same. I just added a new little caveat with cyberware giving it extra damage. In page 178, I added a new ability called counter, a new martial arts action I should add there. You know, there's all these little words you got to add into these things. But this new ability is called counter, and the idea is you counter your opponent's moves. It's something that I think is missing, and it's a free way to do damage on your opponent's turn. I think it's very important to add that in. It does seem like it might be overpowered. That's something I definitely want to test. And maybe if we tweak the numbers, it won't be as overpowered. But I like the idea that, you know, you don't want to mess with somebody that's a martial artist, because when you attack them, they attack you before you even know anything has ever happened, because they've trained to do so. And lastly, remove forms and special moves because they are replaced with the martial arts section of this supplement. That entire area is gone. I've completely removed it. And page 179 to 180, I've removed all those special moves as well. So basically, after the martial arts damage section of 178, my section takes over. My supplement takes over from there. Okay, how do you get your martial arts? If you have 2 points in your martial arts skill, you learn your first martial art. And once you have 6 points in your martial arts skill, you may optionally choose a second martial art to become accustomed to or trained in. And if you have martial arts skill 9 or more, you learn your third optional martial art. Once again, this is a way to mix and match. I think by 6, you know, you're putting in a lot of resources, and I think it makes sense that if you're in martial arts 6, then you probably know more than one martial art. Maybe you train in boxing and jiu-jitsu, karate and kung fu. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with this combination, and I haven't really tested it out. It could be crazy, but it is fun. Unavailable martial arts actions. If you look into your martial arts, you'll see that some of the martial arts have specific actions that are unavailable to them. Some martial arts are going to have some martial arts actions that are not available to them. For example, Taekwondo does not have a bone-breaking submission or a limb control style of action, because that's not what the martial art focuses on. It focuses on other aspects, striking, movement, stuff like that. So some of your martial arts will have limits to the things you can do, but that's why it's cool to take 2 martial arts. Then the limits are gone. You can do all the things that you want to do. Special rules. Some martial arts grant bonuses to players as a reward for their vigorous rigorous training, and dedication to their art. I think this is something that I brought over from Cyberpunk 2020, where you get +1, +2, plus something to a stat. And I wanted to bring it back in some type of way, because like I said before, martial arts becomes a big part of your life if you're training in it. You don't become a martial arts master overnight. You become a martial arts master over time and rigorous training, putting the work in and learning, and all of that needs to be reflected in how it changes you. It changes your body, it changes your mentality, it changes the way that you explore life. And I think that needs to be brought into the game in some type of way. Now, cyberware, yep, we got to see this. But martial arts attacks will become enhanced with respective cyber limbs. If this enhancement applies, you will see it represented as this little C in the book. So the idea is, if you have a cyber limb, then that cyber limb, if you're using it for a special attack, you will get an enhancement for damage. It's something that we talked about logically getting there. Now, how are we going to do it without it being crazy powerful? Like I said, the numbers need to be tweaked, but this is the idea of it. You add your current martial arts skill number to the damage dealt by each attack. For example, if your martial arts skill is a 4 and your body is an 8, then your attacks with the cyber limb deal 3d6 plus 4 damage instead of 3d6 plus or 3d6 damage on a non-cyber arm or cyber leg or cyber limb. So as you can see, you just add it to the end of the roll. It gives you a nice little minimal damage, a minimum damage that you're going to be doing just because you're using that cyber limb. And I think it's a fun way to add your acumen with martial arts. The better you are with martial arts, the more damage you do with the cyber limb that you have. All right, let's talk martial arts actions. Every martial arts will have martial arts actions that it can perform. So let's start with the easy one to understand. This is straight from the core rulebook, martial arts attack. And you see I've added the little C here, so you know that it is enhanced by cyberware. It can be any kind of strike using your body to inflict damage to your opponent, such as a punch, a kick, an elbow, a knee, or a headbutt, or any other creative way you've come up to damage your opponent. Players can perform 2 martial arts attacks per round besides the move action. So just like usual, it's rate of fire 2, but players cannot use their martial arts attacks in combination with other actions. So if you're doing martial arts attacks, that's all you're doing. You can do up to 2. You can't do a martial arts attack with rate of fire 1 and then the second rate of fire shoot your pistol. It's your primary focus. And depending on the martial art that you pick, some of the special martial arts attacks cost both of your available martial arts attacks. So you get 2 within a round whenever you're attacking, but you might have a special move that costs both of those attacks to perform because it requires a little bit more technique, it requires a little bit more concentration, and it's probably really powerful, and you wouldn't want to, I don't think it's fair if you could do it twice. To perform the martial arts attack, it's exactly the same as before in the core rulebook. 1d10 plus dexterity plus your martial arts skill versus your opponent's evasion, but now we've added their martial arts skill. That's a new thing that I've added because, hey, the bad guys can have martial arts training as well. Players will use their body to determine damage in their attacks, ignore half the defender's armor. This is exactly from the core rulebook, exactly the way it's written in there. So nothing has changed. The damage is the same, but you will tack on your martial arts skill if you have cyberware using that cyber limb. Okay, let's talk about the next martial arts action, the martial arts grapple. Instead of using the brawling skill for grappling, you may alternatively use your martial arts skill instead. So your opponent may optionally choose to oppose your martial arts grapple with their brawling or martial arts skill. So just because you don't have martial arts doesn't mean you have no way to defend against a martial arts grapple, but martial arts grapples are a prerequisite for doing some of the special moves within your martial art. You would have to be in a lot of the rules, it says when you are in control of a martial arts grapple, you can perform this move or that move. Now, this is not replacing brawling. You can still use brawling, and all the same ideas with brawling are still there. All the same moves are there. Throws, chokes, all that is still there. You can now do them with martial arts, though, in a special way. And just like the core rulebook, you get a -2 penalty to all actions while in a grapple, and you need at least one free hand to perform a grapple. Any kind of grapple, martial arts grapple, regular grapple, same idea. I kept it the same way. A successful martial arts grapple is required in order to perform the special martial arts actions, throw, chokes, submissions, and counters granted to you. So it is a prerequisite, as I said, for doing some of the things that you want to do, like a martial arts throw. To perform this action, you must be considered in control of a martial arts grapple. So I kept it just like the core rulebook. You deal your body stat as damage directly to your opponent's HP. That's just straight out of the core rulebook, the same as throw. But in addition, your opponent may be thrown up to 4 meters or yards away. If thrown, you and your opponent are no longer considered to be in a grapple. Like I said, I wanted a way where you can throw your opponent, throw them 2 squares away, they hit a piece of cover, they take your body stat as damage. Next in a martial arts grapple is choke. To perform it, you must be in control of a grapple, not just a martial arts grapple, but a grapple if you use your brawling. You deal your body stat as damage directly to your opponent's HP, and if it's held for 3 consecutive rounds, the opponent is considered unconscious. This is largely exactly the same as the core rulebook. The only difference is you can now do it with your martial arts skill as well. Next up, we have bone breaking submission. This is new. To perform this action, you must be considered in control of a martial arts grapple. You won the opposing roll, you are in control. Now your opponent must make a DV11. I might tweak that number, it might be a little low. Resist tortured drugs, and if unsuccessful, the opponent receives the broken arm or broken leg critical injury to the respective limb. But if they're successful on the DV11, then they break out of your grapple. So like I said, we might tweak these numbers. It might be a little bit too low. But the reason I picked resist torture drugs is because really what you're doing is resisting torture. You're resisting the pain. You're trying to see if you can endure through the pain to maybe move a micro inch this way or that way to destroy your opponent's grapple on you, to destroy the leverage they have on your limb. So it's really how long can you go resisting this damage. That's very powerful. That's why I kept it a DV11 at first, because before I did any testing, giving someone a critical injury that you get to choose, you're like, I just want to break that dude's arm. That's not something that I've seen in the core rulebook much of, so I think it's something really powerful. But I love the idea that you can break some bones with a submission. The last martial arts action that I have added is counter. You may use your martial arts skill when opposing the following attacks. All right, so somebody's attacking you, they hit you with a melee attack, a brawling attack, a martial arts attack, a martial arts grapple, or a brawling grapple, grapple, whatever. So the idea is they're trying to attack you, and when they attack you, you make your martial arts skill as an opposed roll against whatever they're doing. So if the result of your opposed roll is a success of 4 or more, you may perform a counter of your choice. So somebody attacks you, and instead of using your evasion, you use your martial arts skill. And if your martial arts skill is a success of 4 or more than what your opponent rolled, then you have the jump on them and you can perform a counter move. Now, if you don't roll 4 or more, then you just deflect the blow as you would with an evasion skill normally. Counter strike. It is enhanced by Cyberware, as you can see with the C. As a free action, perform 1 martial arts attack. So you move out of the way, you rolled 4 or more on the opposed roll, so you get a free action to perform a martial arts attack. I didn't add here in the rules whether it is automatically successful. I think that's one of those things I will have to look through in testing, but the idea is you get a free attack on your opponent that doesn't cost something later on in the round. You can also alternatively counter throw. As a free action, perform a throw or martial arts throw action on your opponent. Whether it's automatically successful or not, we'll get in through testing, but you can throw your opponent. You can counter grapple. They attack you, you grab their arm, you jump on their back, you jump on their legs, whatever you want to do. As a free action, you gain control of a martial arts grapple with your opponent. An example, Whis rolls to attack with his very heavy weapon and rolls a result of 18. Tallow chooses to oppose the roll with his martial arts skill and rolls a result of 22. Since Tallow's result is 4 or more than his opponent, he can perform a counter of his choice. Knowing Tallow, he's probably going to try to cut his head off. So quickly, just some closing thoughts on the martial arts actions here. I wanted to go over them really quickly. There's the martial arts attack, much like the core rulebook. You attack, you hurt people. There's the grapple. Martial arts have their own specific way of grappling. They have their own techniques, and it's very important to touch on that. There's the martial arts throwing somebody. Also, there are techniques within martial arts that covers that. There is the choke, that this is head and arm, guillotine, rear naked choke. I mean, any choke that you can think of where you are basically cutting off the airway from your opponent's brain, then that is considered what a choke is. Bone breaking submission, you grab a limb and you're gonna break it. You're not just trying to control it, you're trying to actively destroy it. And of course, the counter, something that we don't see in the core rulebook. If you want to fight a martial artist in hand-to-hand combat, you better be ready to get punched in the face when you're punching them in the face. All right, next up, we've talked about the concepts, we talked about the mechanics. Hopefully you guys have kind of a grasp on what the idea is. But let's talk about the martial arts themselves. I want to give you guys an idea of what you get, what you don't get when you pick these martial arts. Let's start with the most common traditional martial art of all is karate. Karate, or the empty hand, is a primarily Japanese striking martial art that includes some throwing techniques. In the time of the Red, karate is a respected martial art, and it is integrated into a deadly combat tool with the prevalence of cyberware. The Japanese cultural influence of karate has integrated itself within modern society, and it is heavily flavored by many who join Arasaka's ranks. In those circles, it has transformed into another way to outdo your peers and to impress your superiors. Like I said, I wanted to bring it back to the Cyberpunk Red universe, and even though there's a karate dojo on every corner of every street in our modern time, I felt like in the time of the Red, that is probably exemplified even more and more. The cool thing is to be the traditional thing. The cool thing is to be doing karate, especially if you're in Arasaka, you want to do the traditional Japanese style of martial arts. The one that really started it all, with all the research that I'd been doing, I noticed that karate really started most things. So, unavailable martial arts actions, you're not going to be breaking any limbs with any submissions. All right, here is the first special rule that is within these martial arts, and I've labeled it as special rule because this is not like an action or something you can do. This is just an innate thing that is a part of your lifestyle now that you are doing karate. You have the Brick Breaker special rule. Attacking an object that has 20 HP or less instantly reduces its HP to 0, and the object is considered to be completely destroyed. So basically, anything with 20 HP or less, you hit it with your arms or your hands or your feet, that thing completely shatters and breaks, and the cover is no longer cover. It's just a fun way to add a fun little special rule that karate has done traditionally over the years. We've seen the brick breaking technique, the dim mock, and this is basically the same kind of idea. First up, let's talk about the Power Roundhouse. It is a martial arts attack, and it is enhanced by cyberware, as you can see with the C. This costs both of your martial arts actions to perform, so in a round you have to use both of your actions to perform this. You choose a target location, either the head or the body, and what happens? Let's find out. If you target the head, it is -8 to hit, called shot, just like the core rulebook, but you do triple damage to the head instead of double damage. Or if you choose the body, your opponent must make a DV13 resist torture drugs check. If they are unsuccessful, they fall prone to the ground in addition to taking normal damage. If they succeed, they take damage as normal. There's no additional effect. Now, I wanted to talk about something. Falling prone to the ground. This is a status effect that I've noticed within Cyberpunk that isn't really, it's one of those like hidden status effects because it costs a full action to stand up. Now, the idea behind this is you kick someone in the body, you hit them in the liver. If anybody's ever been hit in the liver, they know that that's going to take you tumbling to the ground. It's like you can't do anything about it. Your body just shuts down. It completely shuts down. So with that same idea in mind, they get hit in the liver, they fall down, and if they're unsuccessful, they're in the fetal position on the ground, in addition to taking normal damage. So that means when their turn comes up, they're going to have to stand up. They have to spend an action to stand up. Now, moving on, let's do another action, the foot sweep. It is a throw and it is a counter. Now, the power roundhouse is not a counter. Why? Because it costs both of your martial arts actions to perform. Any skill or ability that uses both of your martial arts skills to perform is going to be too powerful to be able to use as a counter. And also it takes extra time. It takes a little bit more thought and preparedness to get it done. A counter is supposed to be something fast that happens without a second thought. So a foot sweep, you can use this as a special martial arts throw. Instead of just like a regular throw, you do a foot sweep, or it can be used as a counter throw. All right, for the foot sweep, you must be in control of a martial arts grapple with an opponent, and your opponent takes your body stat as damage directly to their HP, and it makes the opponent prone to the ground. That's something we just talked about earlier. They have to spend an extra action standing up. And lastly, we have the flying sidekick, a martial arts attack. It is enhanced by cyberware. You have to use both of your available martial arts attacks to perform this action. You must move 8 meters and perform a martial arts attack. Very much like the core rulebook, it had a prerequisite where you had to move a certain amount and then you can do this attack. But in addition to dealing normal damage, your opponent must make a DV13 athletics check. If unsuccessful, the opponent suffers damage as normal and is pushed back up to 8 meters or yards, which is 4 squares. Additionally, your opponent and the first thing they collide with take damage equal to your body stat directly to their HP. This is a fun way where you can kick somebody, they fly across the room, they hit a piece of cover, they break the piece of cover or do damage to it, and they also take damage as well. So it's a really, really hardcore way to do a lot of damage. It's a martial arts attack, and it adds your body stat, so all that all together can do all kinds of crazy damage. But if they're successful in the DV13 athletics, your opponent takes damage as normal, and there are no other special effects. All right, we talked about karate. Let's go straight into the grappling world. I want to talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is one of those things that I wish was in the core rulebook, and it's not, but that's fine. It's here right now. Let's talk about it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is dubbed a superpower in martial arts circles, as it has proven numerous times that it is one of the most effective ways to dominate an enemy of any size. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a grappling art that focuses on grounding opponents in order to perform a series of maneuvers to subdue or choke them. Because of how effective it is, Militech has made Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu an official martial art of their organization, and they hold annual tournaments to test the mettle of their operatives within the corporation. Some operatives have gone on to win championships in worldwide mixed martial arts competitions and have led to spikes of enlistment into the mega corporation. So imagine the latest UFC world champion is a Militech shill. He becomes world champion. Everybody wants to be like him. They all join Militech. They all get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's that kind of idea behind it. All right, let's talk about the unavailable actions that are in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The unavailable actions are martial arts attack. There is no martial arts attacks in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in this supplement, and it is just a grappling technique martial art. It is meant for grappling, so you also cannot counter strike. You can counter throw, you can counter grapple, and really it does not focus on attacking your opponent in that way. But imagine how powerful you can be if you know karate and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Anyway, I digress. Their special rule is called pull guard. Gain a +1 bonus to all martial arts grapple checks. That is just an innate bonus. You're always going to get a +1 because you're into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And gain a +3 bonus instead if you are grappling on the ground. Pulling guard in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a technique where you basically bring your opponent down to the ground, or bring your opponent. You're controlling them on the ground. So that might seem like a steep bonus, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu really thrives on the ground. If you're on the ground with a guy that does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or gal, then you're not going to have a good time, okay? They are in complete control. You're in their wheelhouse. You're in the water and that person is a shark and you don't know how to swim. That's what it feels like when you're on the ground with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu martial artist. So the best thing you can do is make sure it never gets to that point. And I wanted to make sure that that special rule is a part of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu person's life, and that is part of their character in Cyberpunk Red. All right, a lot of these techniques are going to be chokes. We got the guillotine. You must be in control of a martial arts grapple. Your opponent takes your body stat in damage directly to their HP, but the caveat is, if it's held, this choke will cause your opponent to become unconscious in 2 rounds instead of 3 rounds. It is a great way to put your opponent out for the count in 2 rounds instead of 3. All right, here is Take the Back. It is a martial arts grapple and it is a counter, so you can use it as a martial arts grapple counter. Perform a martial arts grapple at a -4 penalty. All right, there's a penalty to it. If successful, you're considered on your opponent's back and in position to perform a rear naked choke. If unsuccessful, you and your opponent are no longer considered to be in a grapple. Somebody that knows Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on your back is the worst thing that can ever happen to you. You don't want them on your back because that means they have a grip of your neck and they just have to sink it in and it's over. So the idea is that if you want to set up a rear naked choke, which we'll get into after this, you have to perform a martial arts grapple at a little bit of a penalty. Remember, you get a +1 innately, so it'll be a -3. And if it's on the ground, it'll only be a -1. So you go and you grab your opponent's back and you are now in position to be in a rear naked choke. Okay, rear naked choke. You must have previously performed a take the back action, or you must be in control of a martial arts grapple from behind your opponent. There's going to be times where you just say, you know, I'm just going to grab him from the back unbeknownst to him. I'm behind the opponent and I grab him from the back. And I think it should be granted that you have him, you've taken the back. So your opponents must make a DV13 resist torture drugs. If unsuccessful, they are immediately considered to be unconscious and take damage equal to your body directly to their HP. The rear naked choke, once it's in, it's over. The only thing you can do is tap. Hopefully this person is your friend and you guys are just training together. So instead of taking 3 rounds or taking 2 rounds with the guillotine, this is instant. They are instantly unconscious because that's how quickly you can put someone out. Google it, look it up, rear naked choke. It happens so fast. If successful against the DV13 check, then they take damage equal to your body directly to their HP. So they still take damage even if they make the check, and you remain in control of the grapple in the same position. So there's no, they're not unconscious. You're still on their back. That means the idea is they beat your check. They're still taking damage, but they haven't successfully pushed you off yet. You're still there. You're still a threat. Next up, we have the leg lock, arm lock. It's a bone-breaking submission. You must have a hold of your opponent's arm or leg by being in control of a martial arts grapple. So you're in a martial arts grapple. You tell your game master, I'm grabbing his arm. I'm grabbing his leg. Your opponent must perform a DV13 resist torture drugs check. If unsuccessful, the leg or arm is broken, and additionally, the grapple is considered to be over. You broke their arm, they're out of here. If successful, they receive damage equal to your body stat directly to their HP, and you are still considered to be in control of the grapple. So even if they succeed against that, you are still going to do your body stat directly to their HP, as opposed to a regular bone breaking submission where either you break their arm or leg or nothing happens. In this one, no matter what, you're going to be doing your body stat as damage directly to their HP. Now, there's 10 other martial arts. I'm just going to list them. We have karate, we have taekwondo, we have judo, we have Brazilian jiu-jitsu, we have wrestling, Greco-Roman or freestyle wrestling is considered a martial art. Kickboxing, we have Muay Thai. There's a big difference. You all of you out there, I know you're going to appreciate that I put them in 2 different categories. Krav Maga, it is the Israeli Defense Force created martial art. We have boxing. Boxing is a very important martial art. It has added a lot to martial arts over the years, and that's why it has a big section over here. We have Kung Fu, and instead of listing specific Kung Fu styles, I made the different attacks and different styles their special rules. For example, we have Shaolin Acrobatics, gain a +1 to any athletics checks when you attempt any acrobatic maneuver. And another special rule, I think this is fun, Drunken Boxing. Your opponent suffers a -1 penalty to hit you with any form of attack while you are under the effect of alcohol. It's a fun little way to make a little drunk martial artist. There's capoeira, the Brazilian martial art that looks like breakdancing. And then, of course, I added Gun Fu, which is not really a martial art. It's something that's in the movies, but I think it's so perfect to add it in Cyberpunk Red. All right, that's it. We talked about the martial arts. Let's talk about the Lifepath section. This is the training is life section. Every art requires countless hours of practice in order to become a master of the craft. Martial arts are no different. While other Doombas focus on acquiring the best gear for the job, you are spending your free time in the gym to become a living weapon. When the enemy makes the mistake of getting too close, you are ready to put your training to good use. So these are your additional life path options for martial artists. I basically looked at what's in the core rulebook and kind of mimicked the same kind of thing. You have a roll 1d6. Where did you begin your training? Was it my gym was the streets? Your gym was the streets that you and your mentor grew up on, so you'll have a mentor. Your gym was at a booster gang HQ, and your mentor has close ties with them. Remember, martial arts is one of those things where people teach you. Somebody has to pass it on to you. But your gym, if you rolled number 6, your gym was anywhere you wanted it to be because you trained yourself with any resource available to you, whether they're chips, microchips, or skill chips, or there are YouTube tutorials that you watched basically to learn how to become a martial artist. Who have you met along your journey? Being a martial artist, you're going to meet people. You've met plenty of people, but your martial arts journey is a solitary one. You have no friends or enemies in martial arts. That's your number 1. Your number 3, your mentor is like a parent to you, and you look to them for wisdom. Number 6, you have a martial arts rival who looks for any opportunity to settle the score with you once and for all. That's going to be fun, to have a little martial arts rival, have a little martial arts throwdown within your life. Here's the optional hustle chart. Once again, I mimicked what I saw in the core rulebook and gave ideas. You could roll a 1. You try to hustle some tough guys on the street by challenging them to a street fight with varying results. So sometimes you gain nothing from that. You just got into a fight and there was no money to be made. But other times, you make some money. And then there's the number 3. A local nightclub is in need of some extra muscle. They call you from the afterlife and they're like, hey, Jack didn't show up. Come over here and make some extra money today. Number 6, you joined a secret kumite tournament in a combat zone. I mean, come on, what's cooler than that? A secret, no holds barred, no rules to the death fight in the combat zone, dude. Come on, man. That's the best way to really make money, and also to gain a really cool reputation within the underworld. So that's it, chooms. That's my martial arts supplement. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, it's a Google Docs document, I understand, but you guys gain the gist of what it is. I understand that some of you might think it's super powerful. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know. This is not a final done thing. I'm working on it still. It needs a lot of testing. In fact, as we were going through this, I edited some things that I didn't see, and things that I need to edit as well. But other than that, I hope you guys really enjoy it. I hope this encourages you guys to do the same thing. There's some really cool ones on the subreddit, the Cyberpunk Red subreddit. If you look up the search function. I'm sure you guys can find some cool PDFs out there of some really cool homebrew ideas, and I'm just adding myself to the pile of those as well. I appreciate all of the support that I get from this community, and stay tuned for when I release this thing out publicly, and you guys can enjoy it that way. All right, have a good one. Love you guys. Take care, chooms. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.